My friends, success is not gifted to the fearless. It is claimed by those who, though afraid, still choose to act. There is a myth we must bury tonight, the myth that only those who feel no fear, no pain, no doubt, are destined to succeed. That is not true. The truth is harsher and yet more beautiful. Success belongs to those who walk through fear, not around it. It belongs to those who look into the eyes of despair and whisper, "You will not define me." Each of us has known darkness. That bitter hour when your heart is heavy and your mind is clouded with thoughts that make you question your worth, your future, your strength. We have all stood there at the edge of ourselves, unsure whether we will rise or remain fallen. But that moment, that exact moment when your spirit trembles, is the doorway to your becoming, not your breaking, your becoming. Courage then is not loud. It is not the roaring voice in a crowded room. It is not the chest pushed out to impress the world. Courage is the quiet refusal to stay down. It is the decision to open your eyes when everything in you wants to close them. It is getting up one more time when your body aches, when your soul is tired, when the voices in your head say you're not enough. You get up because the dream is worth more than the fear. I do not speak to you as someone who read this in books or heard it in lectures. I speak as one who has walked through long nights without knowing when the sun would rise again. I have felt the weight of hopelessness pressing on my chest like stone. I have heard the silence grow so loud it threatened to swallow all reason. And still, I say to you, there is something in you that is greater than that silence. There is something in you that cannot be broken by mere feeling. The world will often try to make you believe that negative feelings are a sign of weakness. But I say to you tonight, they are not weakness. They are part of your humanity. The danger lies not in the feeling, but in letting the feeling make your decisions. When fear tells you to stop, you must walk. When anger urges you to retaliate, you must choose dignity. When sorrow whispers that you are alone, you must reach toward those around you. The feeling is not the end. It is the beginning of your answer. Some of the strongest men and women I have known were not made strong in times of ease. They were shaped in fire. They were sculpted in sorrow. They were carved by rejection, betrayal, and loss. But they were not defeated by these things. No, they were made clearer by them, sharper, more determined, and that is why they succeeded. You must never believe that the presence of pain means the absence of progress. On the contrary, pain often signals the birth of something new in you. And while it may burn, it also purifies. Let it burn what you no longer need, the fear of failure, the craving for approval, the doubts passed down by those too afraid to dream. To overcome negative feelings, you do not need to erase them. You need to face them, ask them what they want from you, hear them out, and then decide. Not react, decide what you will do next. Your power lies in the space between what you feel and what you choose. Master that space, and no storm can drown you. You are stronger than you believe, not because you are untouched by struggle, but because you are touched deeply by it and still refuse to give up. That is the kind of strength success demands from you. That is the kind of strength the world remembers, and it begins with courage, not the absence of fear, but the decision that fear will not lead you. So when the night falls and your heart trembles, remember this: you are not alone. Every great journey began in darkness. Every hero once doubted themselves. Every voice that now inspires once cried in silence. But they made a choice. They chose to walk anyway, and now it is your turn. Walk. There comes a time in every life when emotion rises like a storm, sudden, strong, and overwhelming. It demands that you act, that you speak, that you retaliate, that you abandon all reason in the name of feeling. But in those very moments when the fire is hottest and the pressure heaviest, It is not strength to react. It is strength to restrain. Success does not favor the loudest voice or the swiftest action. It favors the one who, when surrounded by chaos, governs himself with quiet discipline. Too many have fallen, not because they lacked intelligence or talent or vision, but because they could not command themselves in moments of emotion. They gave power to their anger. They let fear take the wheel. They allowed bitterness to grow roots in their hearts until it became the very thing that held them down. My brothers and sisters, discipline is the bridge between desire and destiny. Without it, the fire of your dream will burn uncontrolled and eventually burn out. We must learn to lead ourselves before we seek to lead anything else. The greatest victory a person can achieve is the victory over the self. That victory is not won in front of cheering crowds. It is not declared with medals or awards. It is won in silence, in solitude, when no one is watching. It is in that moment when you feel rage and choose peace, when you feel fear and choose forward, when you feel despair and still choose duty. That moment defines your strength, not for the world, but for your own becoming. Emotions are not enemies. They are messengers, but they must never be crowned kings. You must feel, yes. You must allow your humanity to breathe. But you must never hand over the reins of your life to feelings that change with the wind. Discipline does not kill emotion. It guides it. It takes the energy of emotion and channels it toward something worthy, toward purpose, toward justice, toward progress. When you are insulted, you may feel the sting of pride. When you are overlooked, you may feel the ache of invisibility. When life seems unfair, resentment may rise in your throat like smoke. But ask yourself, will acting on this make me stronger, or will it bind me to the very pain I seek to escape? That is where discipline lies. In the question, not the reaction. In the pause, not the outburst. There were moments in my own journey when anger tempted me to act in ways that would have satisfied the flesh but destroyed the mission. There were times when fear told me to remain silent when I knew I had to speak. And yes, there were days when bitterness tried to build a home in my heart. But I learned that no one can imprison you more deeply than your own undisciplined emotions, and so I chose, over and over again, not to let them rule me. I did not always succeed perfectly, but I tried. That trying saved me. You must understand success is not an accident. It is built one decision at a time, and many of those decisions will be made in the heat of emotional storms. The world may give you many reasons to hate, to fear, to quit, but you must give the world one reason to hope, your discipline, that unwavering center within you that holds the line when everything else trembles. Discipline is the quiet friend that stays with you when motivation has left. It is the voice that says, keep going, when every feeling in you screams enough. It is the hand that reaches into your soul and lifts you out of emotion into commitment. And commitment, my friends, is stronger than any feeling. Feelings come and go. Commitment stays. Commitment does not ask how you feel. It asks who you are. So train yourself, not only in skill or strategy, but in self-mastery. Wake up each day and decide before the day even begins who you will be, not what you will feel, but what you will do. When pain arrives, meet it with purpose. When fear knocks, answer with faith. When anger rises, respond with wisdom. That is the strength success demands from you, not the strength to dominate others, but the strength to discipline yourself. In the end, you will not be measured by the fire you faced, but by how you walked through it. Let your actions be led not by the heat of the moment, but by the depth of your character. And when the time comes, as it surely will, to choose between the loud voice of emotion and the still voice of principle, choose principle. Choose discipline. There is something remarkable about a person who can see beyond the storm, who, even while surrounded by darkness, holds to a vision the eye cannot yet see. That is not arrogance. It is not delusion. It is the deep understanding that circumstances do not define destiny. Purpose does. There will be times when you are walking through hardship, when the world feels as though it has turned its back, and your efforts seem to fall into silence. You will question the point of continuing. You will wonder if all this striving is in vain. In those moments, success demands one thing from you above all: vision, the ability to see what is not yet visible, the strength to believe in a reality that has not yet arrived. People often think that vision is about talent, about strategy, about grand plans, but the kind of vision I speak of is something much more human. It is the light within you that refuses to go out, even when the winds of life try to extinguish it. It is the unshakable belief that your life, your work, your voice has meaning, that what you are building matters, even if no one else sees it yet. When we talk about overcoming negative feelings, we must understand something essential. Those feelings grow stronger when vision is weak. Doubt, despair, hopelessness. These things thrive in the absence of purpose. When you do not know where you are going, any setback feels like the end. But when you have a vision, a reason, a direction, then pain becomes a test, not a sentence. It becomes part of the journey, not the end of it. You must learn to see not just with your eyes, but with your soul. You must develop the ability to hold on to your vision, even when everything around you tells you to let go. This is not easy. Life will offer you many opportunities to trade your dream for comfort, for safety, for acceptance. But you must remember, comfort does not grow greatness. Only vision does. The greatest tragedy is not a person who fails. It is a person who forgets what they were reaching for, who allows the weight of the world to blur the picture in their mind until they settle for less than they were made for. Do not let that be you. Guard your vision. Feed it. Speak it aloud, even when your voice shakes. Write it down, work for it when no one claps. Stay close to it, even when the path is lonely. You see, every great change begins first in the imagination. Freedom was once an idea. Justice was once a dream. Peace, dignity, equality, these were not always seen with the eye, but someone saw them in the heart, believed them deeply, and walked toward them with courage. That is the power of vision. It creates hope where there is none. It lights a path where there is only darkness, and when the negative feelings come, and they will try to shrink your view. They will try to convince you that today's struggle is forever. They will whisper, "Why keep going?" They will ask you to surrender your tomorrow in exchange for relief today, but you must not trade long-term purpose for short-term comfort. Vision is what helps you say, "This is hard, but it is not permanent. This is painful, but it is not pointless." Let me tell you something I've learned through years of hardship. The body can endure more than we think. The mind can survive even in the harshest of circumstances, but it is the absence of vision that breaks people. When they no longer believe there is something better ahead, that is when they fall. So guard your vision like a fire in the wind. Shield it from bitterness. Protect it from apathy. Nurture it in the quiet places of your heart. It may take time. You may fall. You may feel forgotten. But if you can keep your eyes fixed on the vision within you, you will rise again, not because of what you feel, but because of what you believe. That belief is what pulls you forward when strength has run out. Success requires that you see farther than most, that you walk by faith, not by feeling, that you allow your purpose to lead, not your pain. Hold fast to the vision, even when your feet are tired. Because the moment you let go of what could be, you surrender the very thing that makes the journey worth it. And so, when the storm rages and the night stretches long, lift your head, not because you are unshaken, but because you still see the morning coming. There is a belief held by many, often whispered in quiet frustration, that strength is something you either have or do not have. That some are simply born with the power to endure, to rise, to persevere through the harshness of life. But this belief is wrong. Strength is not given, it is chosen. It is not something you wait for. It is something you commit to, day by day, moment by moment. Resilience, my friends, is not found in a single act of courage. It is not the grand gesture or the dramatic turning point. It is in the ordinary choices you make when no one is watching. It is in waking up each day, even when the weight of yesterday still clings to your shoulders. It is in showing up again and again and again, not because you feel strong, but because you have decided not to give up. There are days when motivation deserts you, days when nothing seems to move forward, when your efforts feel like they are swallowed by silence, days when your heart aches with the disappointment of unmet expectations and delayed hope. In those moments, success does not demand that you smile or pretend or feel inspired. It demands only this, that you rise anyway. Every person who has walked the road of purpose has stumbled. They have doubted. They have cried in the dark. They have asked the questions we are sometimes too afraid to admit. Is it worth it? Am I enough? Will this ever change? But the answer lies not in the emotion, but in the action. Resilience is choosing to move forward even when you do not yet see the results. It is understanding that you may be walking through a dry season, but that does not mean the harvest is not coming. You do not need to be unshaken to be strong. You do not need to feel brave to do what is right. What you need is to keep going, to put one foot in front of the other, to refuse to let failure have the final word. That is the discipline of resilience. That is the quiet power that builds the future, not loud, not fast, but relentless. We are not shaped in times of ease. We are shaped in trial. It is in resistance that strength is formed. The tree that stands through many storms drives its roots deeper. The river that cuts through stone does so not in one great flood, but through constant, patient flow. You must learn to trust that process, even when your emotions rage, even when your spirit feels small. You see, success is not something you catch. It is something you become, and becoming takes time. Becoming takes repetition. You must rise each day and recommit to your purpose, even when your emotions have not caught up. You must speak life into your vision, even when you feel dry. You must stand in the face of delay and still move forward, not because the conditions are right, but because your cause is worthy. There will be voices, both inside you and around you, that say it is pointless, that the mountain is too high, the system too broken, the pain too heavy, but those voices are liars. They feed on weariness, and so you must learn to speak another language, one of faith, of determination, of patience. You must become fluent in the art of enduring. Do not confuse the slow pace of growth with the absence of progress. You may not feel the change, but it is happening. The roots are growing even when there is no fruit. The foundation is being laid even when there are no walls. Do not quit on the quiet seasons. That is where the strength is built. You are not alone in this journey. Across history and across lands, there are men and women who once stood where you stand now, who once asked the same questions, felt the same weight, but they chose to rise, not just once, but daily. That is what made the difference, not brilliance, not ease, but resilience. So when tomorrow comes and you are tired, rise anyway. When the results do not come and the world does not notice, rise anyway. When fear shouts and progress whispers, rise anyway. Each act of resilience plants a seed that will bloom in its time. And if ever you begin to wonder if the struggle is too great or the reward too far, remember this: resilience is not the absence of hardship. It is the presence of hope in the face of it. There is a quiet danger that creeps into the hearts of many. It comes dressed as pride, cloaked in independence, and it whispers to us that we must carry everything alone, that needing help is weakness, that asking for support means you are not strong, that if you were truly capable, you wouldn't need anyone. But let me tell you this truth now: success is never a solo journey. No one climbs the mountain alone and remains standing at the top without those who helped carry the weight along the way. There is no shame in struggle, and there is no shame in seeking support when the weight becomes too much. We are human, not machines, not islands. We are born into community because we are meant to walk together. The lie that strength means silence is one of the most dangerous lies ever told. And too many brilliant, courageous, capable people have fallen, not because they were weak, but because they suffered alone in silence. Negative feelings, those shadows that cloud the heart and press against the spirit, are not defeated by isolation. They grow there, they thrive in silence, in secrecy, but when you speak them aloud, when you bring them into the light, they begin to lose their power. That is why community, connection, and support are not luxuries on the path to success. They are necessities. You do not need an army. Sometimes one voice, one outstretched hand, one listening ear is enough. But you must be willing to reach out, to say, "I need help," to say, "I'm not okay today." And let me say clearly, doing so is not weakness. That is strength, that is wisdom, that is courage. So many of us have been taught to wear the mask, to smile when we are breaking, to say we're fine when our world is falling apart. And while the mask may protect you for a while, it also keeps others from seeing the real you, the one who deserves to be seen and known and supported. There is power in vulnerability. There is healing in honesty. You do not have to carry your pain alone. I have walked among people who wore greatness quietly, men and women who had endured more than most could imagine. But what struck me most was not just their resilience, but their humility, their willingness to lean on one another when the burden grew too heavy. They were strong because they stood together. They were unshaken because when one began to fall, another lifted them. That is how we rise, together. You see, we often think the road to success is a straight line, a climb where you prove yourself by doing everything alone. But real success, the kind that lasts, the kind that builds legacy, is not measured by independence. It is measured by interdependence, by the relationships you nurture, by the strength you gain from others, and the strength you offer in return. Do not wait until you are broken to seek support. Do not let your pride silence your need. You deserve people who remind you of who you are when you forget. You deserve people who will walk with you through the valley, not just those who celebrate with you at the mountaintop. And if you have those people, cherish them. And if you do not yet have them, seek them, not for what they can give you, but for the truth they can remind you of when you can no longer see it yourself. To overcome the negative feelings that often threaten to derail our progress, we must be brave enough to let others in. To admit that we are struggling, to stop pretending, because the truth is, no matter how strong your will, how clear your vision, how deep your discipline, there will be days when you simply need someone to walk beside you. And that is not a flaw. That is being human. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in life come not in moments of solitary brilliance, but in the quiet conversations where someone speaks a word of life into your despair. A friend, a mentor, a loved one, sometimes even a stranger. The form does not matter. What matters is that you remain open to the strength that flows through connection. So do not be ashamed of your struggle. Do not hide your pain behind a wall. Let others in. Let them remind you of your strength when you forget. Let them carry you when your legs give out. Because when you rise again, and you will rise, you will be stronger not just because of your own will, but because you allowed yourself to be held when it mattered most. Success may require many things from you, but never that you walk alone. There comes a moment in every journey when you must decide not just what you are fighting against, but what you are fighting for. In the pursuit of success, many people focus on escaping their past, proving their worth, or silencing their critics. But true success, lasting, transformative, and whole, requires something far deeper. It requires that you forgive. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is not forgetting. It is not pretending that pain didn't happen. Forgiveness is power. It is the bold decision to no longer be chained to the wrongs of the past. It is the courage to set yourself free. You see, resentment is a quiet prison. You can walk freely in the world. You can dress it in ambition and achievement. But as long as bitterness lives in your heart, you are not truly free. There are many people who never reach the fullness of their potential, not because they lacked ability, but because they were weighed down by what was done to them. Someone hurt them. Someone betrayed them. Someone failed to see their worth, and instead of letting it go, they carried it. Year after year, it grew heavier, and even as their hands built, their hearts remained burdened. Let me tell you something plainly. No matter how much you achieve, if your soul remains trapped in unforgiveness, you will never taste peace. And without peace, success is hollow. Without peace, victory feels like survival, not freedom. You must come to terms with this truth. No one has the right to steal your future, not even those who hurt your past. But forgiveness is not only something you extend to others. Sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself. You may carry shame for the things you didn't do, for the moments you gave in to fear, for the ways you've failed or fallen short. You may wear a smile for the world, but wage war within your own heart. My friend, hear me, condemnation is not the path to transformation. You cannot build a better future while you're still punishing yourself for the past. Growth requires grace, not only for others, but for yourself. Yes, you have made mistakes. We all have. Yes, you've stumbled, but that does not disqualify you from hope. It does not strip you of purpose. The only thing that can stop you now is if you let your past define your identity. You are not what you did in your worst moment. You are what you choose in this one. Forgiveness is not a single act. It is a practice, a decision you make again and again, not because the other person deserves it, but because you deserve freedom. You deserve to live without chains, and every time you choose to release the anger, every time you choose to bless instead of curse, to build instead of destroy, to move forward instead of remaining stuck, you declare to the world and to your own soul that you are not a prisoner to pain. Now, I know this is not easy. I do not speak these words from a place of comfort. I speak them because I have tasted both bitterness and freedom, and I know the cost of each. Bitterness eats away at the very foundation of your life. It poisons your joy. It turns you hard, and though you may think it makes you strong, it only makes you tired. But forgiveness, true, deliberate, honest forgiveness, it softens you without weakening you. It makes you tender without making you fragile. It restores not only your peace, but your power. You will never control what others do to you. You will not always be able to avoid pain or betrayal or disappointment. But you can control what you do with it. Will you let it take root? Will you let it dictate how you see the world, how you treat people, how you move through life? Or will you rise above it? Not with vengeance, but with vision. You were not made to carry every wound. You were not made to replay every injustice. Let it go, not because it wasn't real, but because your future is more important than your grudge, because peace is more precious than pride, because love is stronger than hate. And if you are to overcome the negative feelings that threaten your progress, if you are to achieve the kind of success that touches not only your life, but the lives of others, you must be willing to forgive, freely, fully, and with faith. That is how we break the cycle. That is how we heal. That is how we rise.